Penguin Random House Audio presents Fashion Climbing by Bill Cunningham. Preface by Hilton Als. Read for you by Arthur Morey. Preface by Hilton Als. I loved him without knowing how to love him. If you think of love as an activity, a purposeful shared exchange, what could anyone who was lucky enough to be acquainted with Bill Cunningham, the late, legendary New York Times on-the-street and evening hours style photographer, writer, former milliner, and all-around genial fashion genius, really offer him but one's self? I don't mean the self we reserve for our deepest intimacies, the body and soul that goes into life with another person. No, the Cunningham exchange was based on something else, was profound in a different way, and I think it had to do with what he inspired in you, what you wanted to give him the minute you saw him on the street, or in a gilded hall, a certain faith and pride in one's public persona, the face that I face the world with, baby, as the fugitive star, the Princess Cosmonopolis has it in Tennessee Williams' Sweet Bird of Youth. Like the princess, Bill knew a great deal about surfaces. Unlike the princess, though, he was never fatigued or undone by his search for that most elusive of sartorial qualities, style. You wanted to aid Bill in his quest for exceptional surfaces, to be beautifully dressed and interesting for him, because of the deep pleasure it gave him to notice something he had never seen before. Even if you were not the happy recipient of his interest, the subject of his camera's click, 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 and Bill's glorious toothy smile, there were very few things as pleasurable as watching his heart beat fast. You could see it behind his blue French worker's jacket as he saw another fascinating woman approach, making his day. That's just one of the things Bill Cunningham gave the world, his delight in the possibility of you. And you wanted to pull yourself together, to gather together the existential mess and bright spots called your I, the minute you saw Bill's skinny frame bent low near Bergdorf's on 5th Avenue and 57th Street, his spot, capturing a heel or chasing after a hemline, because here was your chance to show love to someone who lived to discover what you had made of yourself. His enthusiasm defined him from the first. It permeates this, his posthumous memoir, Fashion Climbing, which covers the years Bill worked in fashion before he picked up a camera. He published only one book during his lifetime, 1978's Facades, which starred his old friend, portraitist Edita Sherman, dressed in a number of period costumes Bill had collected over the years. He was not happy with the book, but he was a perfectionist and anti-archival in his way of thinking, so how could a book satisfy his need to move forward, always? Fashion Climbing is, in many ways, his most unusual project. Of course, at the end of his memoir, he uses his story to help point the way toward fashion's future. As a preternaturally cheerful person, Bill seemed not to ever feel alone. After all, he had himself. Born to a middle-class Irish Catholic family in Depression-era Massachusetts, Bill was raised just outside Boston. As a little boy, he loved fashion more than he longed for anything as unimaginative as social acceptance. He begins fashion climbing this way. My first remembrance of fashion was the day my mother caught me parading around our middle-class Catholic home. There I was, 4 years old, decked out in my sister's prettiest dress. Women's clothes were always much more stimulating to my imagination. That summer day in 1933, as my back was pinned to the dining room wall, my eyes spattering tears all over the pink organdy full-skirted dress, my mother beat the hell out of me and threatened every bone in my uninhibited body if I wore girls' clothes again. A familiar queer story, being attacked for one's interest in being one's self. Still, there is no rancor when Bill says, My dear parents gathered all their Bostonian reserve and decided the best cure was to hide me from any
Sample complete. Ready to continue?